Okay, so filling out the initial portions in order to get your account is definitely crucial. But DMV also has a phone number that you can reach out to directly if you do have any issues regarding that. So we're going to talk about Chapter 2, preparing for your application setup. So I show this here on the screen because before you schedule to take your test, you do have to fill out a personal history questionnaire. For privacy purposes, I can't show you screenshots of what that would look like on the screen because it would just look like a bunch of stuff, like a FBI document that's been basically blurred out for the protection. So this is essentially what it's still looking like as far as the information that's going to need to be input. The easy way to describe it is everything that's on your driver's license, plus you're going to have to include things like your social security number as well. And I've broken that out for you as far as what the application information needs to look like. You want to make sure that everything is done correctly based on what's on your ID. And then they're going to ask you some secondary portions as far as the application is concerned. Now, have you ever been known by or used any other name than the one appearing on this questionnaire? It seems like a really weird question, but if you have a maiden name or if you've had a name that has changed or been hyphenated or any kind of variation like that, it's what they're going to be looking for when you go through the background process. So part of what your application is going to have to entail, you have to do what's called a live scan fingerprint or a DMV 8016 that you're going to have to take to a live scan operator and get your fingerprints rolled. What they're looking for is any misdemeanors or felonies in the previous 10 years outside of traffic-related offenses. Okay. The only traffic-related offense that you have to include is a felony DUI. Everything else, you had a speeding ticket or anything like that, not something that they're really looking for. They're also going to be looking for, have you ever had any kind of occupational license before? Now, if you've had a sales license, for instance, you'll have to input this information here. If you currently have a sales license, as far as DMV is concerned, you want to take the time and make sure that you're inputting that information and that you're not including anything that would deter you or slow you up as far as the process is concerned. So if you already have a sales license, don't redo your live scan. Your sales license is live. They'll look up your information. They'll pull that data directly so that way you don't have to do that again. And all the explanations for the questions are listed down below as well, so that you have a little bit more in detail as far as what you're looking at. They're also going to want to see if your license has ever been revoked, suspended, anything fun like that as far as any kind of disciplinary action. And did you ever hold an occupational license in another state to where there was cause for action against that? They also want to know if there's any kind of civil judgment rendered against you as a business owner. If you do, there's a lot of detailed information that you're going to have to disclose with that. And then also, do you have any criminal charges pending against you? Keep in mind that any activity within the past 10 years, like we were talking about, does have to be disclosed to occupational licensing. And there's also an application for an abbreviated application if you've had a misdemeanor or felony in the previous 10 years outside of traffic-related offenses. That's always one of the most complicated questions that I have students talk about. Hey, I had a misdemeanor 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Can I still get my license? The answer, to simplify it, is maybe. Okay, I can't make that judgment call for you. However, you can still fill out an abbreviated application, send it up to DMV. It does take about 6 to 9 months for DMV to review it. It is a physical review process. It is a legal process as well. So retaining a lawyer might be something that would be in your best interest. The DMV does like to see you north of 5 years in that offense. And just kind of an etiquette portion as far as the car industry is concerned. If you ever go up to the dealership board that they have at a dealership and you see a sales license that says probationary on it, don't ask. You now know what it is, okay? That they went through this process and they were able to navigate through it successfully, but there is something that happened on the record. Now, I will tell you that an easy way to kind of test to see if you're going to get a dealer's license and you have a criminal background, get a sales license first. Go through the sales license process, and it costs less, first off, and it goes through the same check boxes that you're going to have to navigate through. So if you can get a sales license, chances are probably pretty good the DMV will allow you to get the dealer's license. But if you go through the sales license, spend the $100+ it's going to take to get that, and you can't get that process, at least now you know that you're going to have to wait until that clears off of your record. You're then going to have to read, initial, sign all of that information as far as your personal history questionnaire is concerned. And we're able to cross off one more thing on our list as far as navigating through this process so that way we can move on to bigger and better things. Any questions about the personal history questionnaire?
How's the criminal record looking there, William? It's about time to dip out of this class or what?
I might have to leave.
No, I think everything's good. It all sounds pretty straightforward.
And believe it or not, Chris, I have had students that have left class right at that moment. Don't leave. Okay. I will tell you, talk to somebody at DMV. Okay. See if there's something and a way to go. I've had students, I remember teaching this live one time, and a student came up and said that he had just gotten out of prison and was in there for Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, within 6 months, probably a good chance that you're probably not going to get your license. But if you had, I also had something similar in a class where I had a student that got completely hysterical when we went through this process, and turned out he had a misdemeanor for poaching, and it was, something like 9 years ago. So don't interpret the law yourself. Talk to somebody at DMV, talk to somebody that can actually give you the proper guidance. So that way, because I want everybody to have an opportunity at success to try to make a go at this, try to make themselves into something more financially stable. So scheduling the exam. Like we talked about earlier in the class, we do have all the addresses for various occupational licensing offices, but this is how you're going to schedule your exam. It's going to be directly under your dealer education portion, and you're going to be able to schedule it right here online. Like I mentioned, the tests are typically now done on Mondays. You can try selecting multiple terminals over here to see if you can get something that might work a little bit better for your schedule, but this is typically now how it's going to operate. The test is going to cost you $16. You can either do card or e-check. If you do e-check, there is no cost associated with it. If you do the credit card, I want to say the credit card cost is like 35 cents. It's something completely, insignificant. But if you want to save yourself that 35 cents, by all means, do the e-check. And then what you'll see here is buttoned for hopefully completed, because you've already uploaded the certificate of completion as far as class is concerned, and that you've scheduled your examination, and that is now in progress. So now you can kind of base things around that date, and that you've at least knocked a few things off of your checklist now. You've taken the class, you've done your personal history questionnaire, and you've scheduled your examination. You also know that your corporation or LLC has already been done and accomplished. Okay. The next step really at this point is figuring out, where are you going to go? Where are you going to open up shop? We're going to talk about some of the important things that you're going to have to look for when it comes to locating a place to conduct business. But before we do, we're going to talk about some of the supplemental documentation that's going to be required. First of which is going to be your CDTFA seller's permit. So the California Tax and Fee Administration, you're going to have to establish an account in order to be able to collect sales tax on behalf of your customers that you're retailing vehicles to, or really at that point, to make yourself sales tax exempt when you're purchasing things for resale. Things like automobiles, things like auto parts, things of this nature. Either way, you're going to have to set yourself up with an account so that way you can be in compliance, and you're going to have to print out that seller's permit once you're done, include it with your application. It also goes up on your wall wherever you're conducting business as well. We talked about the statement of information earlier in class, but just to recap real quick, once again, that is all of the pertinent information as far as who are the officers or the managing members in your organization, so that way they can be properly identified. Your fictitious name statement If you're going to operate with a DBA, you need to file that with the county in order to have that name appear up on the sign. Like we had talked about, the name of my organization is Ashes to Flame Incorporated, but my DBA is California Dealer Academy. So if California Dealer Academy was to open up a business as far as a dealership was concerned, that would be the name that would go up on the signs. And then photographs of the business, something we're going to talk about at the end of class here today, how to properly go through the photographs of your business and all the things that are going to be necessary in order to set yourself up for success. And then the last thing we'll talk about is another form. It's called the ADM 9050. You can find that directly if you want to Google it online on DMV's website. An ADM 9050, in the event that you are sued, where does the paperwork go? And we've actually got a printout for you that we're going to show you here a little bit later on in the lesson plan and how to navigate filling that out properly as well. Okay, so determining where your business is going to be located. Like I said, that's going to be the next step that we're going to focus on. And again, another common question is, do I have to pay for a place before I turn everything in? Absolutely. And I'm not excited to tell you about it because you're going to pay rent probably for a few months before DMV even approves your application. It's just going to be a part of the cost of conducting business. Okay. There's nothing I can do to control that. The DMV operates on their own timeline. So one of the things that we have to look at, not just factoring in as far as the cost of whatever our rent's going to be, is it zoned properly? You can reach out to any of the local county or local city zoning ordinances in order to determine whether or not this is something that is zoned properly. You're looking for zoning for retail automotive. I don't care if there's a repair shop that's a couple doors down from you. I don't care if it was a dealership 25 years ago and you're bringing it back to life. Zoning ordinances change and modify. So it's in your best interest before you sign that long-term lease, check with the city or county that you're going to operate with to make sure that it is properly zoned, and you don't need something that's called a conditional use permit in order to operate there. Because a CUP or conditional use permit is basically additional paperwork that you're going to have to fill out, provide, and you're going to have an elevated cost with it as well. Now, they do range pretty strongly as well. I've seen conditional use permits like in Victorville, for instance, that have been $700. I've seen conditional use permits up in Sacramento that are north of $16,000. Okay. So depending on where you open up shop, and I personally don't open a dealership in a city that requires me to do a conditional use permit, just because there are plenty of cities out there that you can operate and for no additional charge in order to get that moving in the right direction. So just like anything else, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to check what those costs are going to be and how much that's going to cost us ultimately. The other reason why we're going to check this is because although it's not required for your application, it is required to operate as a business. You are going to have to check to make sure whatever city you're operating in needs a business license. Okay. Do not wait to get your business license, because there are going to be special things you're going to have to go through in order to get your business license. I'll talk about a project that I just got off working. A friend of mine was opening up a dealership in Temecula, and Temecula cost for a license is about $39 to get your business license. And I wish that was the only thing that he had to pay for. We had to fill out multiple pieces of documentation, anywhere from a fire ordinance to special land permitting to go through ADA requirements. By the time all was said and done, it cost him upwards of $1,500 in order just to get his business license for the location that we're talking about. Now, I hope this is the exception, not the norm for you, but a $39 license turned into something that then become just an added additional expense that needed to go through with multiple portions of checks and rechecks in order to make sure that everything was in compliance. So knowing what city you're going to be dealing with definitely will help with whatever your overall operational success is going to be in the long run. Any questions on zoning or business licensing?
Nope.
I don't think so. Obtaining zoning permits is the only way to get it with conditional use, or can you actually get someplace rezoned for it?
Rezoning is hard. And you want to think about it much like if you were going to do some major construction on a rental property. Do you physically own that property? Is it going to really be in your best interest to invest that kind of money? Or do we find a place to rent that maybe doesn't require so much maintenance?
Right.
So, unless you physically own the property, that would be the only time personally that I would invest additional sources of revenue, just because you're throwing good money after bad at that point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. And we're going to talk once again about corporation or LLC setup just because it's that important. Okay. This is one of those really big fundamental things that when you're looking at it, not to mention it's also going to be on your test. So I want you to make sure that you're taking notes throughout the course of this process, because again, these are things that are going to relay back to your test. One of the important things to remember, anytime we talk about people and the DMV, so people plus DMV equals 10 days as far as your test is concerned. There are going to be some other things that we're going to factor in, and let's talk about them now. There are also 20 days. Anytime we talk about new vehicles, it's 20 days, and consignment is 20 days as well. Consignment refers to anybody who's going to take a vehicle and have us, the dealer, sell it on their behalf in the lot. A lot of things that go into consignment. We need to make sure that it still meets Division 12 safety requirements, but we're required to pay the consignor within that 20-day time period. Anytime we talk about money in the DMV, paying, posting, renewing, money in the DMV is always 30 days. Okay. And then when we combine money with clearing an application, so both money and the title are to the DMV ready to be processed, that's a 50-day requirement as well. We also have 48 hours to withdraw an advertisement. So 48 hours, once the vehicle has sold, we have to withdraw that advertisement. Those key things right there, though, are responsible for almost a third of your test question that you're going to have as far as DMV is concerned. So really taking the time, taking notes on that stuff can lead to help and success down the road. We talked about that statement of information process already. When you click on the statement of information button on your application, once again, it's going to prompt you to upload that PDF directly into the portal, so that way DMV can have a copy of that as well. And if you don't have a copy of your statement of information, you can always get it off the Secretary of State's website by creating an account with them. As we talked about earlier, your ADM 9050. This is in the event that you get sued, where does the paperwork go? If you have a corporation or an LLC, each and every officer or managing member who is participating with the license must get this form notarized. It's a very basic form to get notarized, but filling it out up on top is the important portion, okay? And I have provided some of the basic examples, depending on how you structure your business, directly here in the application, so that way you can know exactly how to navigate it. Two big things we're going to talk about is corporations or LLCs. So for the example we have here on the screen, ABC Motors, and it's important, the commas, the dots, if it's on the Secretary of State's website, you need to mirror it exactly, okay? Then DBA, and then whatever your DBA is, okay? So these are both examples of how it should look as far as the ADM 9050 is concerned. I have seen them kick applications back because this wasn't filled out correctly. Now, once you fill that portion out, under the license type, you just put it in vehicle dealer, okay? No need to get cute with it. Don't make up your own names. I've had a lot of people take a lot of liberties with this. Just follow the way it's outlined here in your instruction manual, and you'll be just fine. Once you get that notarized, you're going to click on the upload file once again, and you're going to upload it directly into your portal, so that way you can continue on with the process. And this is exactly what it looks like. Again, that corporation name or LLC name, DBA, your fictitious business name, and then you're going to put vehicle dealer here. The notary is going to fill out the second section here, and you're going to sign and date in the presence of the notary. So that way, and oftentimes I have people do the live scan and the notary all in that same section if you're at that point. If you're not, just do the live scan and it'll be just fine. Any questions regarding that?
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
So the live scan is important because, again, this is probably what takes the longest because we're relying on multiple government agencies to send everything back. So that way we're doing it within a proper time requirement. So I've included a link here, and you want to make sure that you're filling out the initial portions correctly as far as what they're going to ask you. They're going to ask you to upload the file. They're also going to ask you for that ATI number. And being a former live scan operator, I can tell you that most of us have handwriting like we could practice medicine. So you want to make sure that that ATI number is very clearly written out. I have them write it out twice on the form, just so that way I'm not missing any characters, because if I do, it could take up to 7 to 30 business days for this to return. So this is an example of what a live scan form looks like. You're going to click box A and then license, and you're going to fill everything out up until number 17. And the live scan operator is going to fill out that information down below. And the number 24 is the ATI number. That's where that goes in right there. Any questions regarding that?
Where do you do live scans?
Live scans, everybody, it feels like, does live scans nowadays. So if you just Google live scan near me, you can find one that's local to you. I usually recommend clients go to a UPS store just because of quickness and how vastly they're available. But there are many small businesses out there. I encourage you to operate with a small business. If you have the patience for it, to be able to go and shop around, it's one of those things. Just the important thing is just to get it done. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about what kind of license should you get and how should you structure your business.